Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rhiannon and today I'm going to be telling you guys all about the books I either bought or received in April. I am really sorry that you're only just getting this video, but some of you may actually know that my auntie did pass away suddenly at the start of May, and for obvious reasons I did have to take a step back and take a break away from filming, which is ultimately why this video is going up so late. So I hope you guys understand and still enjoy the video. I do also just want to say a massive thank you for all your love and condolences. It really did mean a lot, even though I found it hard to reply to a lot of messages. I did see every single one and they truly did mean the world to me, so yeah, thank you so much for all of the love. It really helped me get through that awful time, but I'm not going to say it anymore on that matter because I will get upset, and this video is meant to be a fun one. Another thing I will say just before diving into the books is that I am the worst person ever at giving you guys a coherent synopsis, so I might just end up reading you guys the blurb. I'm sorry if you don't like that, but it's been a while since I've bought these books now. Obviously we're almost at the end of May, and in that time I have forgotten the specifics of each book, so if I am struggling I will just read the synopsis, so that way we'll all be on the same page. And just one more thing before diving into this video, please do make sure to check that you are subscribed to my channel. Around half the people who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed, and so if you do like them and you find yourself watching them regularly, it would truly mean the world to me if you could click that little button. Right, sorry for that long intro guys, but without further ado, let's just dive into the books. To make it easier on myself, I have decided to split this video up into two parts. In the first part I'll be showing you guys all the books that have been gifted to me, and in the second part I will show you all the books that I bought myself. And so starting off the gifts, we have Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This book was very kindly sent to me by Victoria from what Victoria read, so thank you so much Victoria. I did stick the little gift note inside the book and it does just say, "Thanks for taking part in my random act of kindness thread and I hope that you enjoy this book. I found it to be really powerful and impactful and good luck with the PGCE. It's tough but you're rocking it." That is such a lovely message, and every time I read it I just feel so overwhelmed with gratitude and love, so thank you so much once again. But this is actually a book that I've had my eye on for a while, and this is all about the story and the history of the survivor of the Stanford sexual assault case. Something you might not know about me is that I'm actually extremely fascinated by true crime. I do tend to watch a lot of true crime documentaries and I do want to read more true crime non-fiction. And I have actually heard of the Stanford sexual assault case before, but not really in too much detail, and so when I saw this book and when I saw that it was an account of the survivor, I knew I had to pick it up. And it does say on the back, Chanel Miller's story changed our world forever. In 2016, Brock Turner was sentenced to just 6 months in jail after he was caught sexually assaulting her on Stanford's campus. His light sentencing and Chanel's victim impact statement, which was read by 11 million people in 4 days, sparked international outrage and action. Know My Name is an intimate, profoundly moving memoir that exposes a patriarchal culture biased to protect perpetrators, a criminal justice system designed to fail the most vulnerable, and ultimately shines with the courage required to move through suffering and live a full and beautiful life. Entwining pain, resilience, and humour, this breathtaking memoir will stand as a modern classic. I feel like this is going to be such an important and powerful read. It's obviously going to be a very harrowing read, it's probably going to make people very uncomfortable, but I feel like this is one that should be read by everyone, and as soon as I'm feeling better mentally I will be picking this one up. Next up is a bit of a different book for me, and that is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. This was actually gifted to me by my mum. She bought it for my stepdad for Christmas. He recently read it and so they've passed it on to me, and it's just one that I've been really interested in since it came out. I honestly don't know too much about this one, but I'm guessing it's a non-fiction memoir about Barack Obama's life and the struggles he's faced on his road to presidency. Yeah, so it just says, Barack Obama tells the story of his improbable odyssey from young man searching for his identity to leader of the free world, describing in strikingly personal detail both his political education and the landmark moments of the first term of his historic presidency, a time of dramatic transformation and turmoil. Obama takes readers on a compelling journey from his earliest political aspirations to the pivotal Iowa caucus victory that demonstrated the power of grassroots activism to the watershed night of November 4th, 2008, when he was elected 44th President of the United States, becoming the first African American to hold the nation's highest office. Again, I feel like this is going to be a very important and eye-opening read, and I cannot wait to dive in. Next up, I have a very exciting book to show you guys, and that one is Wildcats by J.P. Harker. This author very kindly reached out to me and asked if I wanted to receive a copy of his book, and of course I said yes, and once once I tell you guys the plot, you will definitely understand why. But what I didn't actually notice is that he has written a little note in here, and it says, "To Rhiannon, diolch am cymryd yr amser I ddarllen hwn. Dwi'n gobeithio byddwch yn mwynhau." And then he's put the translation that says, "Thanks for taking the time to read this. I hope you enjoy, JP Harker." So for this one, it does just say, Rhiannon of the Caderin is conflicted about giving up a warrior's life to become a wife and mother, but her love for her new husband is enough to at least make her consider it. However, with the conquering Gaians moving ever closer to her homeland, a peaceful life may no longer be an option for Rhea or for any of her people. With rival tribes, old suitors, and the dangerous general Lepidus to contend with, Rhea soon finds her new family in unprecedented danger, and her choices now must be about more than just herself. So I believe that the setting of this book is a mix between Celtic Wales and Imperial Rome, which just sounds brilliant to me, and the author's email itself was just absolutely lovely. If you couldn't tell by my channel name, I'm Welsh, it's my first language, and obviously my name's Rhiannon. And one of the first things that James actually said in his email is that the main character in this book is called Rhea, and then he said in brackets, Rhiannon, not Rhiannon, unfortunately. Hope this doesn't put you off the book. And that just made me laugh because obviously he's done his research, he's seen some of my videos, he knows my background, and I just really appreciated that, and so straight away I knew that I had to read this book. Okay, and I have just checked my emails quickly because I did remember that James put some trigger warnings in here, so I will just read you out what he sent me. So he said, Wildcat is the first book of the Caledon saga. It's self-published and falls into the adult fantasy genre. In the name of full disclosure, this book contains serious adult themes, severe trauma, and scenes of sex and violence. So definitely be aware of that before diving into this book. But this is one that I'm so excited to dive into, and even though it is a chunky book, it's only around 500 pages, and I don't know how well you can see, but the text isn't on the whole page, so it definitely looks more intimidating than it actually is. I am going to group these next 4 books together because they are the books that I unboxed in my A Box of Stories video. If you haven't checked that out yet or want more information on those books, I will leave the video linked up above and down below for you guys. But I have When I Had a Little Sister by Catherine Simpson, and this is a non-fiction memoir written by a woman who lost her sister to suicide. Then we have The Secret Books by Marcel Thoreau, which is actually a book that's based on true events, but it is ultimately an adventure spy sort of story. Then we have Strings Detached by Erin Reinholdt, and this is an adult contemporary novel. And lastly we have Your House Will Pay by Steph Cha. Now I'm not actually too sure how to describe this book to you. I'm not sure if it's literary fiction or historical fiction. I think it is a mix of both, but I will just read you a little segment of the synopsis. So it says, Grace Park and Sean Matthews share a city, Los Angeles, but seemingly little else, coming from different generations and very different communities. As Grace battles confusion over her elder sister's estrangement from her Korean immigrant parents, Sean tries to help his cousin Ray readjust to civilian life after years spent in prison. But what is it in their past that links these two families? As the city around them threatens to erupt into violence, echoing the worst days of the early 1990s, the lives of Grace and Sean are set to collide in ways that will change them all forever. Like I said, I do have a video where I unbox these books and where I talk about them more in depth, so if you'd like to know more about these, please do check out that video. And now we're moving on to the books that I bought myself, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, there are a lot, so let's just dive in. The first book I have to show you is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwambe Mbalia. This is a book that I've actually had on my radar for a while now, but just never ended up picking up. But this is the May pick for Middle Grade Monthly, and so I decided it was finally time to get my hands on it. For this one, it says 7th grader Tristan Strong feels anything but strong ever since he failed to save his best friend when they were in a bus accident together. All he has left of Eddie is the journal his friend wrote stories in. Tristan is dreading the month he's going to spend on his grandparents' farm in Alabama, where he's being sent to heal from the tragedy. On his first night there, a sticky creature shows up in his bedroom and steals Eddie's journal. Tristan chases it. Is that a doll? Through the forest, and a tug-of-war ensues by his grandmother's mysterious and off-limits bottle tree. In a last attempt to wrestle the journal out of the creature's hands, Tristan punches the tree, accidentally ripping open a chasm into Mid-Pass, a volatile place with a burning sea, haunted bone ships, and iron monsters that are hunting the inhabitants of this strange world. Tristan finds himself in the middle of a battle that has left Black American gods John Henry and Brer Rabbit exhausted. In order to get back home, Tristan and these new allies will need to entice the god Anansi, the Weaver, to come out of hiding and seal the hole in the sky. But bartering with a trickster Anansi always comes at a price. Can Tristan save this world before he loses more of the things he loves? That just sounds so good. This is also part of the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, and I have actually read a couple of books from that imprint before and really enjoyed them, so I have a very good feeling about this one. One that I'm a bit apprehensive about now though is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. The reason I'm apprehensive about this one is because it is a reimagining of the Arthurian legend. I feel like I have said this quite a lot, so sorry if I'm being repetitive, but one of the main things that people don't actually realise is that the Arthurian legends were first ever written in the Welsh language. So King Arthur is first ever mentioned in a piece of Welsh text, but of course it's never referred to as a Welsh legend, it's always English or British British, which really gets under my skin. So I'm not sure how this book is going to tackle that. Also, people have told me that this book includes Welsh dialogue, and that is another very sore subject for me because I have read a couple of books now that have included the Welsh language, and I think almost all of them have done it quite badly. So I'm scared to dive into another book that incorporates that because I really don't want to be disappointed. For this one, it does just say, some legacies are meant to be broken. After her mother dies in an accident, 16-year-old Bree Matthews wants to escape. A residential program for bright high schoolers seems like the perfect opportunity, until she witnesses a magical attack her very first night on campus. A flying demon feeding on human energies, a secret society of so-called Legendborn that hunt the creatures down, a mysterious mage who calls himself a Merlin and who attempts and fails to wipe Bree's memory of everything she saw. The mage's failure unlocks Bree's own unique magic and a buried memory from the night her mother died. Now Bree will do whatever it takes to discover the truth, even infiltrate the Legendborn. But when the Legendborn reveal themselves as the descendants of King Arthur's knights and foretell a magical war, Bree must decide how far she'll go for the truth. Should she use her magic to take the society down or join the fight? So it does sound really good. Hopefully it's one that I will enjoy, but of course I'm not going to lie to you guys. If I do have some problems with this, I will be sure to let you guys know. But I'm really hoping that that is not the case and that I do ultimately enjoy this one. Next up we have Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. I'm actually taking part in Witchlands Along, which is a read-along hosted by Jade over at JD Ray Reads, where every month we'll be reading a book in the Witchlands series. This is the second book in that series, so I can't tell you too much about this one, but in the first one we do follow Safi and Isolt, who after clashing with a guildmaster and his powerful blood witch, actually have to flee their home. This is because Safi is a truth witch, and in this world that is extremely rare. If you couldn't tell by the name, she can tell when people are lying and when people are telling the truth. And in the first book, a 20-year treaty is coming to an end between a lot of different countries, and because of that there is political unrest. And so if anyone were to find out that Safi is a truth witch, they could capture her and take advantage of her powers. That's all I'm going to say about that one because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but I did really enjoy the first one. It's why I've bought the second book. I cannot wait to continue on with the series, and even though I was meant to read this last month, I am hoping I can read it relatively soon because I have now fallen behind on the read-along schedule and I desperately need to catch up. Next up we have The Dinner Guest by B.P. Walter, which is a thriller. I actually saw this one in Tesco and it was only £3.50, so I decided to pick it up. I've been in such a thriller mood lately, and like I said, when I saw this one and it was quite cheap, I decided to snatch it up. For this one it says, 4 people walked into the dining room that night. One would never leave. Matthew, the perfect husband, Titus, the perfect son, Charlie, the perfect illusion, Rachel, the perfect stranger. Charlie didn't want Rachel at this book club. Matthew wouldn't listen. Classic crime meets Donna Tartt in this nerve-shredding domestic noir thriller that weaves the sprawling web of secrets around an opulent West London world and the dinner that ends in death. That sounds so intriguing to me. Like I said, I've gotten into my thrillers lately, and if you know me at all, you know that I love a good murder mystery, and I feel like that is what this book will ultimately become. So I definitely feel like this is one that I will be picking up relatively soon, especially if I find myself getting into a reading slump and wanting a fast-paced book to get me out of it. Next up we have a book that I'm super excited for, and that is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because Aidan Thomas is the author of Cemetery Boys, which is a book that I haven't actually read yet but really do want to. However, when I heard about this one, I had to pre-order it immediately because this is actually a Peter Pan retelling. Peter Pan is one of my all-time favourite stories. I love everything about it. I love the adventure, the whimsy, and just all the characters that are in the story. And I believe that this one does take a darker turn on that fairy tale. So for this one, it says, when children go missing, people want answers. It's been 5 years since Wendy and her 2 brothers vanished into the woods near the small coastal town of Astoria, Oregon. Wendy returned with no memory of where she had been or what happened to her. Her brothers did not. When the town's children start to disappear, the mystery around her brothers is brought back into the light, and the police are once again knocking on Wendy's door for answers. Attempting to flee her past, Wendy almost runs over an unconscious boy lying in the middle of the road. Peter, a boy she thought lived only in her stories, asks for Wendy's help to rescue the missing kids. But in order to find them, Wendy must confront what's waiting for her in the woods. Yeah, that just sounds absolutely amazing. Definitely my type of thing. I love a good retelling, especially a Peter Pan one like I said, so I honestly cannot wait to dive into this one. I really do want to try and get this on my next TBR, so hopefully that's the case, but if not, I might just try and read it anyway because I genuinely cannot wait to dive into this book. Next up, we do have 2 books that sort of go together. The first of those being Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes, which is the story of the woman from the Greek myths. If you watched a few of my videos by now, you will know that I am absolutely fascinated by the Greek myths, and Natalie Haynes is an author that I have read from before. I've read 1,000 Ships by her and absolutely loved it, and I've finally gotten around to picking up up her other book, Pandora's Jar. For this one, it does just say, stories of gods and monsters are the mainstay of epic poetry and Greek tragedy. From Homer to Aeschylus, Sophocles and Euripides, from the Trojan War to Jason and the Argonauts, and still today, a wealth of novels, plays and films draw their inspiration from stories first told almost 3,000 years ago. But modern tellers of Greek myth have usually been men, and have routinely shown little interest in telling women's narratives. And when they do, those women are often painted as monstrous, vengeful, or just plain evil. But Pandora, the first woman who, according to legend, unloosed chaos upon the world, was not a villain. And even Medea and Phaedra have more nuanced stories than generations of retellings might indicate. Now, in Pandora's Jar, Natalie Haynes, broadcaster, writer, and passionate classicist, redresses this imbalance. Taking Pandora and her jar, the box came later, as the starting point, she puts the women of Greek myths on equal footing with the menfolk. After millennia of stories telling of gods and men, be they Zeus or Agamemnon, Paris or Odysseus, Oedipus or Jason, the voices that sing from these pages are those of Hera, Athena, and Artemis, and of Clytemnestra, Jocasta, Eurydice, and Penelope. This one does also have stunning pictures throughout, and I'm extremely excited to learn of these stories from the women's perspectives. And then next up we have one of the most beautiful books I think I've ever seen, and that one is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. And I mean, look how beautiful the end pages are, guys. I genuinely cannot stop staring at them. But this is of course another Greek myth retelling. It is a new release. I had it pre-ordered as soon as I found out about it, and now that it's here I want to drop everything else and read this immediately. And here it does just say, as princess of Crete and daughters of the fearsome king Minos, Ariadne and her sister Phaedra grow up hearing the terrible bellows of the Minotaur from the labyrinth beneath the palace. The Minotaur, Minos' greatest shame and Ariadne's brother, demands blood every year. When Theseus, prince of Athens, arrives in Crete as a sacrifice to the beast, Ariadne falls in love with him. But helping Theseus defeat the monster means betraying her family, and Ariadne knows that in a world ruled by mercurial gods, drawing their attention can cost you everything. Ariadne has heard too many tales of women being punished for the acts of men. She is determined to set her own fate, but will her decision to help Theseus ensure her happy ending, or will she find herself sacrificed for her lover's ambition? Again, this is another book that focuses on the women's stories from the Greek myths. I feel like everyone knows the story of the Minotaur, but it will be extremely fascinating to see it told from Ariadne's point of view. Next up we have After the Silence by Louise O'Neill. I first heard about this from Carys over at Carys' Corner. She bought and read this recently and just absolutely loved it, and as soon as I heard the description for the book I knew I would love it too. It says Nessa Crowley's murderer has been protected by silence for 10 years, until a team of documentary makers decide to find out the truth. On the day of Henry and Keelan Kinsella's wild party at their big house, a violent storm engulfed the island of Innistrad, cutting it off from the mainland. When morning broke, Nessa Crowley's lifeless body lay in the garden, her last breath silenced by the music and the thunder. It was impossible to get off the island that night. The killer couldn't have escaped Innistrad, but no one was charged with the murder. The mystery that surrounded the death of Nessa remained hidden, but the islanders knew who to blame for the crime that changed them forever. 10 years later, a documentary crew arrives, there to lift the lid of the Kinsellas' carefully constructed lives, determined to find evidence that will prove Henry's guilt and Keelan's complicity in the murder of beautiful Nessa. In this bold, brilliant, disturbing new novel, Louise O'Neill shows that deadly secrets are devastating to those who hold them close. So another murder mystery type of book, and what immediately caught my interest is the whole documentary side of it. Like it says, it's been a couple of years since the murder happened, and so it'll be very interesting to see the secrets that are being dug up. I have also heard amazing things about Louise O'Neill, so I honestly cannot wait to dive into this book. I feel like I'm saying excited way too much in this video, but honestly, I can't help it because I'm genuinely so excited for all of these books, and this next one in particular, and that is Malice by Heather Walter. So this is a very new release. I feel like it's been hyped all over BookTube, so I'm sure you will have heard of it, but this is another fairy tale retelling, and just in case you don't know, it is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. To be completely honest with you guys, I've never really been that big of a fan of Sleeping Beauty. It's definitely not one of my favourite stories, but this one sounds like it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So it says on the inside of the dust jacket, once upon a time there was a wicked fairy who cursed a line of princesses to die, a curse that could only be broken by true love's kiss. Utter nonsense. Let me tell you, no one actually cares about what happens to our princesses. I thought I didn't care either until I met her. Princess Aurora, the last heir to the throne, the future queen her realm needs, one who isn't bothered that I'm the Dark Grace, adored and feared for the mysterious dark magic that runs in my veins. Aurora says I should be proud of my gifts, that she cares for me, even though it was power like mine that was responsible for her curse. But with less than a year until that curse kills her, any future I might see with Aurora is swiftly disintegrating, and she can't stand to kiss yet another insipid prince. I want to help her. If my power began her curse, perhaps it's what can lift it. Perhaps together we could forge a new world. Nonsense again, because we all know how the story ends, don't we? Aurora is the beautiful princess, and I'm I'm the villain. So from what I can gather, this is going to feature an FF relationship, which I'm definitely here for. I feel like it's going to be such an interesting take on the story where the princess actually falls in love with the villain, and I just cannot wait to see how that all plays out. So again, this is another one that I really do want to prioritize and get to soon, but I've said that about the majority of the books so far, so who knows when I will actually pick it up. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm kind of embarrassed about the next book I'm gonna show you because it is the third book in the series and I haven't even read the first book in that series yet. So probably not the best thing to do, but the book that I bought is Serpent's Curse by Lisa Maxwell. I don't actually know what the series is called, but the first book is called The Last Magician, and I do actually have it here, so I will just read you the synopsis of this one because, like I said, haven't read it and I'm pretty clueless as to what it is about. But it says, stop the magician, steal the book, save the future. In modern day New York, magic is all but extinct. The remaining few who have an affinity for magic, the Magus, live in the shadows, hiding who they are. Any Magus who enter Manhattan becomes trapped by the Brink, a dark energy barrier that confines them to the island. Crossing it means they lose their power and often their lives. Esther is a talented thief and she's been raised to steal magical artifacts from the sinister order that created the Brink. With her innate ability to manipulate time, Esther can pilfer from the past, collecting these artifacts before the order even realizes she's there. And all of Esther's training has been for one final job, traveling back to 1902 to steal an ancient book containing the secrets of the order and the Brink, before the magician can destroy it and doom the Magus to a hopeless future. But old New York is a dangerous world ruled by ruthless gangs and secret societies, a world where the very air crackles with magic. Nothing is as it seems, including the magician himself, and for Esther to save her future, she may have to betray everyone in the past. Again, another one that sounds amazing. To be honest, I haven't heard a lot about this series, but the people who have mentioned it have really enjoyed it, and now that I have all of the books, I don't have an excuse to put it off any longer. I can sit down and hopefully binge the series. Another book that I've bought that I haven't actually read the first book in the series is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. I'm not actually sure if this is a duology or if there will be more books, but the first book in this series, duology, who knows, is King of Scars. I don't even want to tell you about that book because I feel like it could be a spoiler if you haven't read the Grishaverse books, so I'm not going to talk about this one for too long, but I did decide to purchase this one. I do have all of Leigh Bardugo's books so far, and now that I've recently watched the new Shadow and Bone TV show, I feel like I will pick up these books soon. I have read all of her other works, but for some reason I did put off King of Scars. I feel like there were a lot of mixed reviews surrounding it, and I just wanted to wait for the hype to die down a bit before diving into these. Then we have a book that I'm very excited about, and that is Way of the Argosy by Sebastian de Castell. I feel like everyone's been talking about Sebastian de Castell recently, and it's mainly because of Jade from JD Ray Reads. That is the first person I heard mention this series, and her love of it made me buy all of the books. So I do own all of the Spellslinger books, however I'm up to book 4, I believe, and I've got 2 to go. But this book is the first book in Sebastian de Castell's prequel series to Spellslinger, which does follow one of the characters from there. I wasn't going to tell you guys about this book because for some reason I thought it would be a spoiler, but now I've just realised that it's a prequel, so everything has already happened by the time we start Spellslinger, so I can definitely tell you what it's about. So it does just say, a merciless band of mages murdered her parents, massacred her tribe, and branded her with the mystical sigils that left her a reviled outcast. They should have killed her instead. Stealing, swindling, and gambling with her own life just to survive, Farius will risk anything to avenge herself on the zealous young mage who haunts her every waking hour. But then she meets the incomparable Durrell Brown, a wandering philosopher gifted in the arts of violence who instead overcomes his opponents with shrewdness and compassion. Does this charismatic and infuriating man hold the key to defeating her enemies, or will he lead her down a path that will destroy her very soul? Through this outstanding tale of swashbuckling action, magical intrigue, and dazzling wit, follow Farius along the way of the Argosy and enter a world of magic and mystery unlike any other. I'm really excited to dive into this book. Farius is one of my favourite characters from the Spellslinger series, and it will be really interesting to see how she's gotten to where she is, especially knowing the dark things that have happened in her past. So yeah, this is one that I won't read anytime soon because I do need to finish out the Spellslinger series, but once I do that I will definitely make sure to pick this one up, and I genuinely cannot wait. And you'll be pleased to know, guys, I only have 2 books left to talk about, and those 2 are both Fairy Loot books, so if you don't want to be spoiled at all for any of the books in those boxes, please click off now. But to be honest, it's been quite a while since I have unboxed these, so I'm sure you'll know what the books are by now anyway. But if you have no clue what these books are going to be and you're interested in watching my unboxing for these boxes, I will leave them linked in the description box, so you can definitely check check them out to see my first reactions to these and to get a more in-depth view of the special editions too. So first off, I have The Bright and the Pale by Jessica Rubinkowski, and I believe that this book was featured in the March box. All I can remember about this book is that it is a polar fantasy, so let's just check the synopsis to see what it actually entails. So it says 17-year-old Valeria is one of the only survivors of the freeze, a dark magical hold Knot Mountain unleashed on her village. Everyone, including her family, is trapped in an unbreakable sheet of ice. Ever since she's been on the run from the Tsar, who is determined to imprison anyone who managed to escape. Valeria finds refuge with the Thieves Guild, doing odd jobs with her best friend Alec, the only piece of home she has left. That is, until he's brutally murdered. A year later, she discovers Alec is alive and being held against his will. She must lead a group of cutthroats and thieves on a perilous expedition to the very mountain that claimed her family. Only something sinister slumbers in the heart of Knot, and it has waited years for release. Inspired by Russian folklore, Jessica Rubinkowski's epic fantasy debut is a thrilling page-turner with romance, tragedy, magic, and monsters that will stay with you till the very end. This is a weird one for me because I feel like the synopsis does give away quite a bit, but hopefully it hasn't spoiled the main plot of the book and that we will find out more things whilst we read. This is another one that I probably won't reach for anytime soon because obviously it's a polar fantasy and we are going into the spring and summer months, so I'm definitely not vibing with this one right now, but as the months get colder again, I will definitely make sure to pick this one up. And then the last book that I have to show you guys today is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This is the book of the month for April, and oh my gosh guys, it is stunning. It has these beautiful sprayed edges and the book itself just sounds absolutely amazing. So it says, here at Zalendov, the only person you can trust is yourself. 17-year-old Kiva Meriden is a survivor. For 10 years, she has worked as the healer in the notorious death prison Zalendov, making herself indispensable. Kept afloat by messages of hope from her family, Kiva has one goal and one goal only: stay alive. And one day, the infamous rebel queen arrives at the prison on death's door, and Kiva receives a new message: don't let her die, we are coming. The queen is sentenced to the trial by ordeal, a series of elemental challenges against the torments of air, fire, water, and earth, assigned to only the most dangerous of criminals. Aware the sickly queen has little chance of making it through the trials alive, Kiva volunteers to take her place. If she succeeds, both she and the queen will be granted their freedom, but no one has ever survived. And with an incurable plague sweeping Zalendov, a mysterious new inmate fighting for Kiva's heart, and a prison rebellion brewing, Kiva can't escape the terrible feeling that her trials have only just begun. I need to read this book as soon as possible, you guys. That sounds brilliant, and I genuinely cannot wait to pick it up. I feel like I'm going to join the Fairy Loot read along for this. I don't know when it actually takes place, so I'll have to check that out. But rest assured, I will be reading this one very, very soon. So definitely follow my Goodreads, which is linked down below if you do want to see what I think of it. Right, that is it for today's video, guys. I know it's been a very long one. I've been filming for a while. My throat is starting to hurt. So if you're still here, please do leave a book emoji for me down below. It can be an open book, the stack of books, anything you want. And also, please do let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them if you have. Whilst you're down there, don't forget to click the like button if you like this video and the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. It truly does mean the world to me, and I will see you soon in my next video. Goodbye!